Here, the government is planning to bring in radical changes which will see the size of new apartments reduced. The Housing Minister says it could cut building costs, but opposition parties say it will lower standards for renters.
Rents are rising, house prices and homelessness figures are on the up too. Today, the Housing Minister revealed a new measure that he hopes will change that situation by getting more apartments built.
We're ensuring there's no changes to fire, we'll be ensuring there's no changes around disability or environmental, but we are looking at the mix within the apartment block to ensure that they become affordable for people to be able to purchase, because high standard apartments not being built is of no use to anybody.
The changes will cut the size of new studio apartments to 32 square metres from the current 37, while a new design rule for 3-bed apartments, which accommodate 4 people, will set a 76 square metre requirement. All of which the Housing Minister hopes will reduce the building costs of each apartment by between €50,000 to €100,000. It's not a view shared by opposition parties.
Well, there's nothing radical in what's been proposed, and it has been tried before. Owen Murphy did it in 2018, and the results were renters who were paying rising rents were given inferior accommodation. But it also pushed up the cost of land. That meant it was more expensive to deliver units, which did nothing to address viability.
While Labour insisted the remedy to all this is to have the state rather than developers build more homes.
There was nothing really new in substance in anything the Minister said there, because we in Labour believe, first of all, that the state must play a greater role.
Others too were unconvinced about the measure, which will also relax the rules around the number of apartments that must have windows on 2 external walls.
The changes that have been mooted in terms of apartments will only incentivise more build-to-rent box units that no one can afford to live in and people don't want to live in either.
And that could be the lingering criticism of this plan, unless it delivers on its aim of dramatically increasing the supply of homes.
And Micheál Lahan is here now with more on this. Micheál, housing, of course, still the big issue, but also growing concerns now as this deadline on US tariffs approaches on Wednesday.
Yes, it takes place against that backdrop, and I suppose these changes to housing will be measured quite simply, really. There are a lot of planning developments for apartments. They have planning permission. They've even been extended, those permissions. Will concrete pour in the ground now soon as a result of these viability changes that the Minister has announced? The opposition clearly don't think that will happen. But I suppose it is interesting when you talk about economic uncertainty that tomorrow the economic ministers will gather in government buildings and look to things that can help the economy, shore up the jobs that are here and try and get more to come to this country as well. And housing will be chief among the items under discussion there, as will upgrades to the national grid and improving water services. But I suppose much hinges really on what happens with those EU-US trade talks as to whether or not the economic certainty continues. Now, earlier I spoke to the Enterprise Minister, Peter Burke, who gave me this assessment as to where the government feel those talks are at right now.
So the best case at the moment, as we see it, is a political framework being delivered on Tuesday evening. That would really look at developing a pathway for further negotiation. Obviously, there's a number of areas that the EU are looking for zero for zero carve-outs or most favoured nation status. Those around aviation, life science, semiconductors, spirits, but all those areas are under challenge. Aviation is getting a lot of traction, as far as I understand, with the US administration.
So the government here clearly not expecting a full stop on Wednesday. I suppose aviation is interesting, as the Minister mentioned there, because about 65% of all planes leased globally is done through Ireland.
All right, Micheál, thank you.